We have 1 minute, but still do not have a quorum. I show 9:30.
Okay, let's call to order the meeting of the Western Municipal Water District Board of Directors. Tammy, would you please do a roll call?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Director Denstedt. Present. Director Torres. Director Rizvi.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Director Roten. President Gardner.
I am here.
Thank you, President Gardner. You do have a quorum today.
Okay.
And before we get started, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. We are currently having some technical difficulties that we are experiencing. We are going to try to use our agenda management software, but should we run into some snags during the meeting, we will go old school and do it manually. But just to give you a heads up, if we have some small delays.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance. Will be led this morning by Robert Webb. Mr. Webb. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. All right, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Robert,
Tell us a
why
little
don't you
about
introduce yourself?
Sorry, I'm Robert Webb. I'm with Electrical Services. Been here about a little over 7 years. So I've been around for a minute. Kind of the long and short of it.
We are glad to have you, and it's nice to have your sort of expertise in-house. It saves us money and it gets it done faster and better.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Two.
Robert.
Okay, Tammy, do we have any public comments this morning?
I have no request to speak in-house and have received no written comments.
Okay, thank you. And we have no one online indicating they'd like to speak?
There are no members on Zoom wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to the consent calendar. Anybody have anything they would like to pull
So
to
moved.
discuss?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Tammy, when the system is ready, if you do a roll call vote, please.
Director Denstedt.
Aye.
Director Torres. Aye. I lost my voice, so I'll be whispering. Director Rizvi.
Aye.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
And for anybody online who could not hear Director Torres, she has lost her voice, so we're going to hear some whispers and some thumbs up and thumbs down for things, I think. Hope you feel better soon.
Maybe we should get her a paddle that says yes and no.
Okay, do we have anything to add to the agenda, Mr. Barr?
We have nothing to add.
Okay, our action agenda is pretty short this morning. Our first item is to consider adopting a resolution 3316, supporting a grant application to the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Water Conservation Field Services Program. It says that is Dr. Matlock.
Melissa Matlock is here, and she did do a verbal in committee on Monday, but she'll run through it right here today.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So we are bringing Resolution 3316, supporting a grant application to the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Water Conservation Field Services Program. The project we are proposing is our Murrieta Water Management Study, which is going to examine water sources in the Murrieta service area. The grant allows us to apply for up to $100,000, and it requires a 50% cost match. Applications are due June 3rd, with an expected award in August, so it's actually a pretty quick turnaround. and a grant resolution is required for this opportunity.
Okay. Do we have any public comment, Tammy?
We do not.
Okay, any questions from the board? And if
Move
not,
to
is there a
approve.
motion? We have a motion from Director Denstedt,
Second.
second from Director Risby. When the system is ready, Tammy, if you do a roll call vote.
Director Dinstedt?
Aye.
Director Torres? Director Risby?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. Note that Director Torres voted aye. The motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you very much. Our second item is another resolution, 3317, supporting a grant application to the Department of Defense, Office of Local Defense Community Cooperations Defense Community Infrastructure Program. And Melissa again.
Go ahead, Melissa. Tell us what you're doing with OLDCC.
Yes. So yeah, it's a mouthful, but it's the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation, also known as OLDCC. It's the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, DCIP. They like their acronyms, but this is Resolution 3317 for a wastewater infrastructure project at March Air Reserve Base, which is looking to do construction of the 1269 sewer force main. The proposed ask is about $5 million because we can have about a 30% local cost share to 70% federal. Applications are due June 17th, and this one is also an expected award in August, so very quick turnaround time considering the large amount of grant ask that's involved. And a grant resolution is required to apply.
I am going to add something here that this project is listed in the capital plan, but it is in the out years. So if we were to receive this grant, we will be coming back to the board and asking to bring the project forward from years 6, 7, or 8, wherever it stands. I don't remember exactly where it's at, but it is not currently listed in the 5-year plan.
Great. And a question that I asked in committee that I think is important for everybody to understand is we had a similar grant previously, and it required a federal environmental review, which slowed down some projects. That will not be the case in this instance. The project is far enough in the future that all of the NEPA work will be done well in advance. So for anybody who might be concerned that we could be delaying something again, that's not going to be the case this time. So with that, any discussion?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. When the system is ready, Tammy.
Thank you. Director Dinstedt?
Aye.
Director Torres? Director Risby?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0. Please note that Director Torres did verbally vote aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Brings us to reports. Mr. General Counsel.
Good morning, President Gardner and board members. I have no report this morning. Thank you.
Okay. General Manager's report.
I will report that I did speak to the general manager this morning. He did report that the conversations in DC are going very well. He and Director Roten are in DC meeting with various folks, and he'll provide a full report when he comes back at our next board meeting. That's the only verbal I have, but we do have a presentation listed as well. So
Okay.
with that, I'll call Lindy Lewis up. While Lindy's coming up, Lindy is Principal Engineer in Regulatory Compliance, and she's going to provide us everything we need to know about PFAS. So hold on tight.
Everyone's favorite topic. Hello, President, Directors. It's a pleasure to be here and just talk about that famous acronym that just won't go away, PFAS, or per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Again, I will just be referring to that as PFAS throughout the presentation. So there's been a lot of movement on the state and federal level with respect to regulation of PFAS. And so today I'm here to update you on the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA's recent PFAS final regulation that established federal standards for PFAS in drinking water just a few weeks ago. Next slide. So as you can see in the table on this slide, The EPA set maximum contaminant level goals, or MCLGs. So MCLGs, they are non-enforceable public health goals. And so they set them at a range of from 0 to 10 parts per trillion for 5 individual PFAS constituents. They also set maximum contaminant levels, which are MCLs, and these are the enforceable standards. So this is what we measure our compliance in our drinking water system too. And they also set for 5 individual PFAS constituents from 4.0 parts per trillion to 10 parts per trillion. As you can see on the bottom row of the table, they also set what they call a hazard index. So that's a mixture of 2 or more detected PFAS constituents, the 4 that you see in the table listed. And so really kind of the thought or the science behind that is that you may have one individual PFAS constituent at a low level, and by itself as an individual, it may not cause any health impacts or harm. But when 2 or more get together, they have a party, they don't know how to act, and they can cause additive health effects. And so that's what the EPA is trying to protect against, and why they set a hazard index for these 4 PFAS constituents. So in addition to the MCLGs, the maximum contaminant level goals, and our enforceable MCLs, they do include in the final regulation requirements for both initial and ongoing monitoring of PFAS. So for most water systems, that initial monitoring is going to be quarterly sampling to be able to determine your future frequency of sampling in your drinking water system. And then if the monitoring does show that there is a violation of the MCL, they are giving water systems 5 years to implement solutions. And so that could be treatment, blending, or removing that water source. And so that's not after like 1 year of monitoring, now I have 5 years. That is 5 years from the effective date of the regulation, which is June 25th of 2024. So basically by 2029, they will have expected water systems in the nation to be complying with these MCLs. And so lastly, the regulation also requires water systems to basically inform the public of levels of detected PFAS in our drinking water systems from this initial and ongoing monitoring that we'll have to conduct. And so that will be done through how we normally communicate our water quality via our consumer confidence report, or our annual water quality report that we issue out to our customers by July 1st of every year. And so, you know, in California, we've already been exposed to PFAS notification levels and response levels. So in California, we already have really been communicating, you know, PFAS water quality related data in our consumer confidence reports. And then obviously if there is an MCL violation, you would have to do special outside of your consumer confidence report notification to Publix, but that's not unlike any requirements for any chemical that we may have an MCL for. Next slide. So this slide essentially summarizes the initial and ongoing monitoring requirements that are set forth in EPA's final regulation. So I think really some of the most important takeaways is that compliance with the MCL is not based on a single sample. So we don't just take one sample and like, uh-oh, we're over the MCL. It's based on a running annual average. So let's say we take one sample a quarter. After we have those 4 results, we will average them, and that's what we compare with the MCL, which is our enforceable standard, not the MCLG, but the MCL. And so as long as, so we will basically drop off a quarter, add on a new quarter, determine compliance. And, you know, if we are shown to not have any detected PFAS constituents, we will be able to go on like a 3-year monitoring schedule. So the second takeaway is that compliance with the MCL is based on the entry point to the distribution system. So what does that mean? The entry point to the distribution system is not like a raw water source before any type of treatment or blending. it's actually reflective of the water that is being provided to our customers after all treatment and after, all blending what is going into their taps. And so, once initial quarterly monitoring is completed, that will help us to determine per different sample site and entry points into our system whether we have to maintain ongoing quarterly monitoring. And so that will be if we're above we're below the MCL, but above half, we'll have to keep doing quarterly monitoring. But again, if we are below half of the MCL, we can convert to every 3 years.
Lindy, what is the measurement capability for PFAS? Can you actually measure can you measure 2 parts per trillion?
So there are labs that have that capability. There are labs that have that capability to do it even lower than 2 parts per trillion. However, EPA has set their practical quantifiable limit. It's a PQL. And those PQLs are actually set at the MCL. So for PFOA, PFOS, it's at 4 parts per trillion. And that's because they're looking at as a nation, what can the labs do, at a high degree of accuracy. But can individual labs actually test below that? Yes. But what they have to consider is an estimated concentration. So, yeah. So, yeah.
Basically, if you can find it, it's too much.
Yeah. But I mean, when we're talking about parts per trillion, right, that's like 1 drop in, some say 1 Olympic-sized pools. I've heard 20 Olympic-sized pools, but, it's very, very low. And I think, the poor, they've found detections in the Arctic ice and in polar bears. It's hard not to find it anywhere, really. Nobody is untouched by PFAS.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
I have a question from
Yeah.
this end of the dais. Have we done any preemptive monitoring yet, and do we know what to expect?
Yes, so that is actually my next slide. I'll jump right into that.
Nice segue, Mr. General Counsel.
All right, so the good news. All of Western's water quality that we are currently serving to our customers is below all of the new US EPA PFAS MCLs. So we have conducted both voluntary monitoring and we have done monitoring at entry points to our distribution system under EPA's 5th Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Program, which I'll refer to as the UCMR-5. And so the UCMR-5 program has us testing for 25 different PFAS constituents for our Riverside and Murrieta systems. And we also decided to, because wholesale water systems, like the Arlington desalter system, is not under the UCMR-5 program, but we did voluntary monitoring. So all UCMR-5 monitoring results are publicly available. They're on the US EPA's website, and we actually also have them on our Western Water website as well. So if we do look at the Arlington desalter system, we've done voluntary quarterly sampling for well over a year now. And so while we do have wells, all the wells exceed, 1 or more of the PFAS MCLs, luckily for us, reverse osmosis is an approved best available treatment technology by the EPA to remove PFAS. So when we look at the wells after they've been treated, we test that water also for the various PFAS, and those have all come back non-detect. We do bypass untreated water to blend, and so we also have sampled at our product water that's being distributed to our customers, and we are always consistently below the US EPA MCLs. With that being said, we are still putting forth a capital project for fiscal year 25 that will do treatment and removal of PFAS in that well bypass stream. So in our Murrieta system, we are conducting PFAS monitoring under the UCMR-5 program. So both the new clay well, and so we're doing the well directly as a source and an entry point to the system because customers could potentially receive it without it being blended with anything else. So the new clay well and our EMW intertie has been non-detect for PFAS. Northwell 2 has been offline for manganese treatment installation, so we haven't conducted any official UCMR 5 monitoring. However, late last year, right when it went offline, a voluntary PFAS sample was taken that did indicate that there could be some potential PFAS over the MCL, but we didn't have a confirmation sample. So before that well is brought back online, we will be doing some investigative and confirmation sampling to, essentially determine, what we do with the well.
The manganese treatment doesn't happen to catch PFAS too, does it?
Unfortunately, no. Yeah. We couldn't get a 2-for-1 there. So in our Riverside system, as you know, it's purchase treated water. So we do have 3 entry point samples that we take under the UCMR 5 program. They're listed here at the MWD Intertie, Mockingbird Chlorination, and our La Sierra Reservoir. And so all of those quarterly results have either been non-detect. I think maybe one quarter we had a very low level detection, but everything is consistently well below. It would actually be considered non-detect, when you compare them against the PQLs for the system. So we should have no issues with that. So I would just like to end with that, EPA's final regulation does give primacy states. So for us, that would be the State Water Resources Control Board, Division of Drinking Water, DDW. It gives them up to 2 years from the effective date of the regulation, which is in June of this year, to either adopt the MCLs or create more stringent ones. So DDW did just issue their prioritized list of drinking water regulations in March. And so hexavalent chromium MCL was number 1, but they just approved that a few weeks ago. And number 2 on their list is PFAS. So we do expect them to move forward with the development of their own state PFAS MCL. We do not know at this time if it will be more stringent, but this is California, so it's highly likely, and at least that's what the chatter is among the water utility work groups. So there will certainly be more to come from this. But in the meantime, we still comply with the federal ones until the state adopts their own.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just a offhand question. When does Northwell come back online? Okay.
Which year? This year. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Do-
you.
Do, are there local labs that have the capability today to detect at less than, accurately detect at less than 4 parts per trillion?
Oh, yes. So
Okay.
we do contract with Babcock Laboratories here in,
Yeah, I just didn't know if they were one of the ones that have
Yes.
that level of technology.
yeah,
Is that significantly more expensive?
no,
Okay, that's good.
no.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Directors' reports and requests. SAWPA did not meet yet this month. They are scheduled later in the month. MWD,
Also scheduled later in the month.
okay. Chino Basin Water Master did meet. It was the first meeting for the new general manager, Todd Corbin. It went well. It was a very routine meeting. We received a budget briefing at Watermaster. The budget is actually adopted by the advisory committee and essentially concurred with by the board. A little different there. If the board and the advisory committee have different perspectives on what the budget ought to be, the board can send it back to the advisory committee and say, we'd like to see these changes, but if advisory committee wants something different than the board wants, then it has to go back to the judge who says this is the party that is correct and that's the budget. Hopefully that won't happen. It's not common for that to happen, but it could. Their schedule for adopting a budget is similar to ours here at Western. It's that time of year. And that was it for Watermaster. CDA meets tomorrow. I will be covering that for Director Roten, who is in Washington, D.C. There's nothing exciting on the agenda. Rikra.
We met last Thursday. Routine items, but we did approve the fiscal year 2024-25 budget. Let me just give you some update. The year-to-year total operating budget increased 6.5% due to increases in utilities, labor cost, and parts of rehabilitation of the existing centrifuges. Overall fixed rate increased by 12% and overall variable rates decreased by 3.7%. Annual debt service for plant expansion SRF loan remained the same. Capital pay to go capital budget increased by 9.3%. Asset replacement reserve funding increased by 79% because of the upcoming capital projects. Estimated total member contribution requirement increased by 8%. It was approved unanimously at the RICRA.
Great.
And that's about it.
Thank you. WRCOG.
Meets Monday.
Sarah.
It was canceled this month, so next month.
Okay. Aqua Region 9.
Aqua Region 9, we, just as a reminder, we have conference next week up in Sacramento, so I encourage everyone to attend that. We'll be having a Region 9 meeting as usual, and we're looking for topics, ideas for the coming year, and what we're going to be talking about with our program for fall conference. So we're looking for suggestions and open to ideas, and we look forward to seeing everybody in Sacramento next week.
Great. Director's comments. Director Torres, do you have a note you'd like someone to read? Okay. Director Denstedt.
No, nothing today.
Director Risby.
Nothing today.
Okay, I have just two quick things. First, happy May Day. I'm of an age where we used to actually do the ribbons from a pole. It was fun, and we took people May baskets. And happy Cinco de Mayo, an important day culturally coming up in just a few days. And then the other is, if you'll recall, I created an ad hoc committee of Director Roten and Director Risby to look into what was happening at the Fair Political Practices Commission relative to some complaints that had been filed. That has now been closed out at the FPPC. And this was confirmed by our general manager. I am going to ask that committee, though, just to give a recommendation to the board on how do we close this out completely, and where, if anywhere, do we go from there? So Director Roten is aware that she's being asked to do this. I'm sorry to blindside you, Director Risby, and you, Director Torres, but under the Brown Act, I can only talk to one. So that, again, the committee will have at its disposal the services of the general manager and the general counsel, should they need it. And I think it would be nice to do this relatively expeditiously, but obviously you have other things to do. And so we'll just look forward to getting a report back and being done with that one forever. And that was all I had. We do have information items in the packet. Our next meeting is May the 15th. And with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you all very much.
That was a very short meeting.
Recording stopped.
Shortest meeting since I've been here.
Yeah, I think so too.
We did get it done, remember that?
We did. 29